Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and iOS 27 has some nice CarPlay updates, so I thought we'd go over everything new so far. Now the first thing is we get some new Liquid Glass updates. Things such as the Podcast app or the Maps app icon have the new glass interface look where it's been refined, and you'll see that throughout. We also have a new battery indicator here that's slightly different than what we had before. And just like iOS 27, Apple is focused on better wireless CarPlay this time around with better communication and stability when connecting to your iPhone. So that's something that they're focusing on. However, like I mentioned, it's early on, and you can see that it says BMW, but we have a Porsche app icon. So that's one of the bugs here. If you connect it to multiple cars over any amount of time, it seems to stick with one icon and not transition from vehicle to vehicle. Now, the first new feature or change here is if we go into settings and then we scroll down to wallpaper, wallpaper has been updated to go along with iOS 27, and you'll see some new ones here. So if we scroll down, you of course can change it to whatever you'd like. You've got a bunch of different options. We have it set to the default one here, but you have more of a purple, a darker blue, you have a green, or whatever you want to match your individual vehicle. So we'll just keep it on default for now, just so you can see what it looks like. Of course, these go along with night and day as well with light and dark mode. So if we go back here, we go to appearance, you have always dark or automatic. So if we switch back over, again, go back in, go to our wallpaper, you'll see that they're a little bit lighter this time around. Again, going along with the iOS 27 theme that you can see here. So that's the difference, at least with the wallpapers. One of the other changes throughout has to do with music. If we go into music, you'll see that we have a new mini player icon. So the look is a little bit refreshed where we have home, new, radio, and library, so you can go through that. And it is a little bit slow from time to time, depending on the device that you're using, of course, with the car. And you'll see sometimes it doesn't respond right away. But this shows you the overall interface. Also, we have a new mini player interface here in the upper right. So we have the mini player, we can tap on it, we can play the music, go back out, and you'll see it continues playing in the upper right. And that's a new look for it overall. So there is a slightly different look to the overall interface, and that carries across to podcasts. So if we go into podcasts, you'll see the same thing here. For example, if we go into this one, it loads in the upper right, and we have a similar interface throughout. So if we go back here, we'll pause it. We have a similar interface throughout where we can scroll through. And if we go back to new, for example, it's very similar to what we have with Apple Music. So again, very consistent and the same as what we have with Apple Music within podcasts. One really nice change is if we go into our mini player or any player here, you can now scrub audio. So you can just drag back and forth, scrub through the audio, and it makes it much easier to go through different music, and it's a much better interface as far as that goes, where you couldn't do that in iOS 26. Now, of course, we do have the new Siri AI. We have a dedicated app here, but when we utilize Siri to talk to someone via messages, it looks completely different. But if we press and hold, what's the weather today?
Should be sunny today. The high temperature will be 98 degrees and low will be 74.
So you'll see what it looks like here. Could you tell me what the forecast is like throughout the week? It takes a
The
moment.
forecast is calling for both partly cloudy skies and clear skies this week.
So you can continue your conversation there. And again, that carries across to your Siri app. If you go into Siri, you'll see that it just talked about weather today, talking about the forecast, Splatoon Raiders that my son wanted to know about, trying to change a photo, for example. It saves this across all of your devices. So this is on my iPhone now. It's also on CarPlay. And again, you can come back to these conversations if you'd like. And then, of course, you could start a new conversation as well. Also, when you're talking to someone via messages, it looks a little bit different to go along with the new Siri update. So let's go ahead and send a message maybe to my brother. Send a message to Zach Zolo.
What do you want to say to Zach Sholo?
I'm just testing out iOS 27 CarPlay with a sample message to show what it looks like.
Sending to Zach Zolo. I'm just testing out iOS 27 CarPlay with a sample message to show what it looks like. It's sent.
And that's what it looks like. So it gets rid of that border that we had before, and it has a little bit of a different interface. Also, to go along with Siri and the voice assistant, third-party developers can now use their own voice assistants with an updated overlay at the bottom configured how they would like based off of their app. So you'll see more of that as we get to the release of iOS 27. Also, there's a new widget. If maybe you just parked your car, it will now show up on your Apple Watch, letting you know where you've parked your car. So that widget goes along with Apple CarPlay and sort of integrates with everything. Now, in the near future, we should get an Apple TV app that's coming to Apple CarPlay that should allow you to use it while you're parked at a location. So maybe you have an EV and you're parked there charging your car and you want to watch something, you should be able to do that in the near future. Also, video apps are supported as well, so not just AirPlay streaming like iOS 27. However, we really haven't seen any of that sent over from different app developers, and of course, the car has to support it as well. But in the future, you'll be able to maybe view video here, so maybe you'll have Netflix here while you're parking, YouTube or something else. You can view it on your display, and if you start to go, instead of maybe just shutting off the video, it will then continue on audio. So maybe you're watching a YouTube video like this one, you go into Drive, it will then switch over to an audio version of that and continue. But again, we're not seeing that just yet. Also, third-party developers now have access to richer interface elements, so we should see some of those updated in the future. Again, those won't be shown until iOS 27 is released to the public. So for now, it pretty much looks the same with third-party apps. But they'll also have the ability, if they make a navigation app, such as Google Maps, for example, they'll now have more access to data for the car so it can communicate back and forth with routing, navigation, and maybe even charging and EV optimization. So some of those things were updated in iOS 26, but now it's even more integrated where developers can reach in, grab that information, and help you better with Google Maps, for example. If we go into Apple Maps, within Apple Maps, unfortunately, there's no pinch to zoom just yet. My car supports it with Android Auto, for example, but it's not here just yet. So Apple Maps is pretty much the same, but you will see some refreshed Apple Glass or liquid glass all throughout the interface. But again, you'll see it's a little bit choppy right now, and we're seeing that throughout, but that will be improved as time goes on, as this is pretty early on. Also, when you're navigating, GPS accuracy should be improved in iOS 27. So where your location is, what direction you're heading, and everything else. So we're seeing more and more improvements throughout, along with wireless CarPlay. And of course, there's liquid glass elements that have been improved as well. So as we get closer to the public release in the autumn, usually around September, this should be much better and much more refined. But at this point, keep in mind it's an early beta, and there's still going to be some bugs. As far as anything else at this point, there's really not a whole lot of other updates. It's just more refined, wireless CarPlay works better, and we should see continuous improvement in the near future with all of this. So again, it works fine, but there's still some bugs like I mentioned earlier with the icons, and some of the lagginess is still here, but it seems like it's getting better and better, and by the time it's released to the public, it should be pretty great. Let me know your experience with Apple CarPlay, if you've used iOS 27 with it and what you think of it. And of course, if you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe. And if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.